that's one thing that people don't realize is the magic of language learning, is that when you really try to share a few words of another person's language, it really shows that you care. And when that happens, there's a magic that you can collect gems on the Duolingo, but it's really motivating when you're collecting new friends and you're helping each other.
Hello and welcome to the Catholic Homeschool Podcast, and I am your host, Paola Siskanik. I am so excited today for today's podcast because we get to meet Adrienne, and in just a minute I'm going to read her bio, but this is something so new, so revolutionary. I bet there's a lot of folks out there who have wanted to either learn a language themselves and especially teach their children that language. And I get that question all the time. So without further ado, let's say hi to Adrienne. Hello, Adrienne. Welcome.
Hello. So excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking time. I know you're a busy mom and you're running a business, and a wonderful business teaching people about Spanish. So before we get started, to let people know who you are, I'm going to read your little bio here. Okay, so let's get a minute here to let everybody know that Adrienne is the founder of Learn With Me Languages. She is fondly known as, I love this, Chief Optimist. She leads a team of talented teachers who help families learn languages through connecting with native speakers of the language they are learning. Families form friendships that motivate them to use the language. The program was, and I love this, birthed at the beginning of COVID. And since then, they have connected hundreds of families from around the world learning Spanish and English together through family language exchange. Adrienne is also the host of Building Bilingual Families Podcast, and her passion is to help families become bridge builders in their communities. So welcome, Adrienne. I'm so glad that you were here with me today.
Oh my goodness, it is a treat for me. And I'm really excited to meet your community and tell them about how they can be bridge builders as well.
Wonderful. So Adrienne, tell us first a little bit, I always love to begin, story. Tell me your story. You have a story, right? Didn't you want to learn Spanish and teach your children? So tell me a little about your story and your family. Let's start there.
Absolutely. Well, I have a 17-year-old who's my oldest, and she was the first guinea pig that we decided to try to teach Spanish. And at the time, my husband, he had learned in college, and so he spoke very well, and he was working in banks in Latin America. And so I thought, you should just give us this immersion experience, right? Just start speaking to us in Spanish and we'll soak it up. And I immediately became super frustrated because it was annoying when he was like correcting me all the time. And I had such a hard time when I couldn't, find the words that I wanted to say in the moment with my daughter. And so I decided to do what most people do when they want to learn a language. I signed up for a class at the local community college, and I went for about 3 weeks. And then I gave up.
Love it. Yep. Really, you lasted 3 weeks.
I did. I gave up because, like most new moms, I was overwhelmed. I was working part-time. I had a young toddler underfoot, and it just seemed like this impossible task. And so I dusted that dream underneath the rug, along with lots of crushed Cheerios. And it wasn't until I had my little boom boom ching of my family, my son who's now 8 and my twins who are 5, that I decided I'm going to give this a try again. And if I thought I was busy before, oh my goodness, with 5 kids now, I was completely overwhelmed with things to do. And so I thought I really need to learn Spanish somehow and weave it into my busy life. Like, I definitely couldn't take a course at the community college at this point. So I decided to do what a lot of parents might think about doing. I went to Spanish story time at the library. I started with Duolingo, just started like looking up some different phrases on Google Translate. And after about 3 months, I felt like I knew a lot, right? I was like, yeah, I'm a good Spanish speaker. And so I connected with my neighbor, Wendy, who is from Mexico. And I said, can I practice Spanish with you? And she said, oh, Adrianita, you know me, my life is so crazy busy. I can't, but I have a good friend who just moved here from Spain 10 months ago. And she's trying to learn English. And she's frustrated. She doesn't have a license, so she's at home. Maybe you could get together and maybe you could help her. And with that, I said, all right. And I Google translated some messages to her. And I set up our first meeting. And when I knocked on that door and she opened it, so excited to see me, and she started to speak very fast Spanish, I realized I knew nothing.
After all that, right?
I knew nothing. I had studied so hard, but she had gauged my language abilities based upon my Google translated messages. But what bloomed out of that very awkward and embarrassing experience was a real friendship. It was a connection where I was helping her learn English. She was helping me learn Spanish. And we were really just helping each other learn the phrases we needed to use in our regular lives, in our home, when we went grocery shopping. And so it's through that we developed Learn With Me Languages and the Habit Spanish system, because it's helping parents learn the language as they do life and really giving you connections so you can actually have a purpose to learn Spanish.
So Adrienne, your story is not unique, and I bet a lot of people who are listening to this is going to say, whoa, I had a similar experience. And in fact, in our Catholic homeschool community, I got a question I want to read to you because I just really want you to hear this one, Adrienne, okay?
Yeah.
Somebody sent this in to me today, actually, right before we went to the broadcast. She says, hi, I wanted to reach out and see if anybody has suggestions for a Spanish course, curriculum, anything. My husband and I took Spanish in school, so we're looking for something that will help us to brush up, but also to teach our boys who are ages 3 and 6. Something with some workbook aspects, fine, but more audio is what we would probably use. And this part's the part I love, Adrienne. She says, we have new friends at our church that have just moved from Ecuador. So trying, our boys, they're motivated to learn to have some conversation in Spanish with this other family. Isn't that amazing? So just connected me with you again today to just say, Adrienne, you need to hear this. This is what our families need. This is what they're looking for. So, why don't apps work, Adrienne?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think what's interesting is that we think technology is the solution for everything nowadays. But ponder this question for a second, Paola. How did you learn your first language? Was it through an app?
No.
Was it through a computer
It was
screen?
my family, parents, siblings.
Yeah. It was just in your home of your mom speaking the language to you. And was it okay that you were making mistakes at the start? Absolutely. The pronunciation wasn't perfect for a very long time, but guess what? You speak perfect English now, right?
That's right.
I think what a lot of language learning programs completely miss the boat on is that in order to learn to speak a language, you need to have someone to speak it to, with 2 eyes, a mouth, and a nose. And some of the safest people to speak it to are right in your own home, in that comfort, parents, children, and you can have a lot of fun with it and you can weave it into your busy life. It doesn't have to be another class or another project. We show you how you can just put little pieces, really just starting with one word and then realizing how words can build around that one word so you can become fluent in the language. And more importantly, so that you can be confident to try to reach out to that neighbor from Ecuador or to talk to that person in the grocery store.
Right. So like you were saying, when you began, you thought you knew it from your apps, from your courses and this and that, but the minute you connected with a real human being, it all fell apart. Was there like a key moment, you know what I mean, that actually started you and this friend, to really speak with each other?
Yeah. Well, we sat down with each other with this sincerest desire to communicate and realizing that everything that we said led to something else that we didn't know how to say.
Yeah.
And so we used a lot of Google Translate. We used a lot of hand actions. It's really the foundation of what we teach in our Habit Spanish and our family language exchange, is how to communicate with someone, even when you have gaps in your abilities. But I realized that we could actually build a really strong friendship, even though there were a lot of gaps.
Wow.
She's actually one of my best friends now, even though our conversations for a long time didn't go very deep. But it was because we were helping each other. And I think that's one thing that people don't realize is the magic of language learning, is that when you're vulnerable, when you really try to share a few words of another person's language, it makes them feel like you are equal. It really shows that you care.
Yeah.
And when that happens, there's a magic that you can collect gems on the Duolingo, but it's really motivating when you're collecting new friends and you're helping each other.
That's, and that's why I knew I had to get you on this podcast, because this is so exciting, because it's so different from anything else. And at the heart of it is this idea of service to one another. And that, in God's beautiful world, we are created to relate. And, languages is only like this minor temporary barrier. So I hear from you, the one hand, you want to have that for your children. You talk about building bridges, and connecting with your community. One thing you mentioned too was this idea, and I really want to break down before, for people, you mentioned two things, okay? Because I'm sure you stumbled upon it, and now you've organized it into a really, really thorough program that works. So there's this Habit Spanish, right, that's coming up this summer, but then you also have the other program. Can you talk us a little bit about what the program looks like and what those two things actually, how they work?
Yes. Oh, I love that. So in the comfort of your own home with your kids, you can develop habits speaking Spanish together in just short phrases, things that are easy to remember. And we give you what we call memory sticking methods. And those are things so you don't just learn it and then you forget it, but you learn how to recall it and how to tie it to experiences. One of the best examples that I share about this is I volunteered at my daughter's preschool, La Escuelita San Marcos, and many of the students are Spanish speakers there. And one of the little kids made a block tower and she knocked it down and said, "Se cayó." Well, I figured that meant it fell down, right? So I built another block tower with her. She knocked it down, said, "Se cayó" again. And immediately that experience made those words, "se cayó," stick in my memory. I will never forget what "it fell down" meant. And so we help parents have these experiences with their kids with that first short phrases, but then it builds and it gets to be more and more. And as you do that, as you communicate often in the comfort of your home, then you feel more confident speaking with native Spanish speakers. So our Habit Spanish is the foundation in your home, and then it guides you into our family language exchange. And that is where we actually have native Spanish speakers and native English speakers from around the world. And we help you facilitate to build friendships together and to communicate with each other.
Oh my gosh. It sounds very exciting and very, natural. I would want to say, it's like, why didn't people think of that before? It just seems, but I love how there you are, your mom who had a need, and you just, were able to put that into practice. Well, here's this other thing too, that's kind of nagging at most families I hear, and I can relate to this. Are you too old to learn a new language, Adrienne?
Well, I was over 35, so you're never too old. And certainly with children, people will always say, well, when they're young, they're just like sponges. If I haven't captured them then, there's no chance when they're a teenager. My dad, he's actually going through cancer treatments right now. And his geriatric oncologist recommended that he learn Spanish because it helps with brain connections. It helps with cognitive function for someone who's gone through those treatments. He's in his late 60s. So really, any age is a great age to start learning Spanish. And, it was a really sweet experience. I went out to visit him and started using this habit Spanish, method with him. And within that first week, he was meeting with a neighbor from Peru, and he's lived next door to him for 10 years, never had a very long conversation. And they were out there connecting on the back porch, talking together. They've been meeting every single week since that. And so I just think about that. And I think, gosh, if my dad, who's, going through cancer treatments, almost 70 years old, can be a bridge builder, can learn the Spanish language, then you can too. As a parent, as a child, it is never too old. And it's okay if it's not full fluency. Full fluency may not be the goal. That's all right. It's whatever you can, so you can be able to reach out to the other person and really show that you care.
Yeah. Would you say, now again, I know there's a lot of, we're homeschooling podcast here. Would you say by doing that, the immersion conversational method, it actually helps lay some of the groundwork for, and again, like you said, you hit the point. When you're really little, you're not doing workbooks and grammar, you're learning by immersion. But does it lay the foundation for, higher being able to write in Spanish eventually?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you lay that foundation of learning the language, of actually speaking it, just as you learn to speak before you learn to read and write, that's the natural order. So like my kids, they're reading in Spanish. It started first with them speaking, then me reading to them, and now they're reading in Spanish. And eventually we'll get to more writing, but it's a journey. It's a process, just like homeschooling is. And all you need to do is just take one step at a time, just one step.
I love it because it's kind of like works with the dignity of the person. We're taking what's naturally our ways of learning. It's almost like, people are, problem solvers. So where do we connect first? And then we move to the natural stages of learning and being able to connect with each other. So great. So before we wrap things up here, can you walk me through? I know that one of the things, and I just a little spoiler here, is that I'm going to invite you people to a webinar workshop that Adrienne, I have wrangled her into doing for us. And that's going to be in May 19th, but I'll be sending out notices on that. There'll also be links below on this video. But tell us a little bit about this program coming up this summer, because I think that habit Spanish is so powerful. Tell me exactly, how does that work again?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, many parents have their summer vacations planned. They've got a busy, time laid out. They'd love to do Spanish, but they don't want to add another thing to their list. They don't want to complicate the schedule. Well, Habit Spanish is going to help you learn the Spanish habits as you are doing life, which is amazing because you can really make your whole summer a language immersion experience, whether you're traveling somewhere or at home. And so we're going to show parents this Habit Spanish method, and then we're going to give them a taste and a try as they're learning these habits of doing some of these language exchange type experiences through some live classes. So we're really excited to bring it to parents. It's super flexible. It's done on your terms. And I think the best part is that you get to start connecting with people. And if you've ever started something and been like, well, like I did, I gave up, right? And the reason why is because I didn't have connection, right? But once I did, it was amazing. And, I would just share quickly, we have a story of a wonderful woman in Bolivia who's been a part of our family language exchange. She lost her job during COVID. She language exchanged with one of our families. She tested at a higher level of English. She got a new job. And so, you want to do something as a family to make a difference, either around the world or just right in your own parish or neighborhood, this is the place that you can start.
Oh my goodness. That's just so amazing. That was really beautiful. You had mentioned, so how are people going to get a hold of this? I know that if they go to their website, learnwithmelanguages.com, you already have like a nice guide for people to start already some of those habits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the Speak Spanish Everyday Guide, and you can get it at learnwithmelanguages.com. And we'll be diving more into it at the workshop on May 19th. I'm so excited. Such a treat.
Me too. All right,
But
great.
certainly, if this has piqued your interest, don't wait. Go to learnwithmelanguages.com, snag that free guide for you. And as soon as Paola gets the information up, get signed up for our webinar workshop. It's going to be amazing.
Great. So I will put the link. We'll have the link below this video for learnwithmelanguages.com so people can get the guide and get started right away. And then we'll be spreading the news about the workshop that's coming up in May. But we're recording this, of course, ahead of time. And I want to wish everybody, because we're releasing this podcast on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. We did that on purpose. So happy Cinco de Mayo to families out there. And again, our community is worldwide. We have many Spanish-speaking families. The ability for them to connect with each other within our own community and to perhaps begin with a unified approach, this beautiful, natural, it is a godsend, Adrienne. And I really, really thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing something that has really been inspirational for you and has already changed lives. So thank you, Adrienne, for joining me today. I look forward to the workshop and everything more. Anything, parting words you want to leave us with in terms of learning a language?
Yeah, I think what I would just share is that if you have this little fear inside of you that you can't, that maybe you've had an experience of trying to learn a language in the past and it was too hard, or you felt embarrassed, just know that, God is on your side and he can help you. He can really help you in this process because you can do the good work of connecting with other people and helping them feel valued when you take on this wonderful journey of learning Spanish.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Adrienne, and may God bless you all abundantly. Thank you. Bye now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Thank you, and have a blessed day.